Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to cover the basics of crocheting through making a slip knot, how to hold your hook, and how to do a chain stitch. With that being said, let's jump into it. So let's start with the first part, how you can hold your hook. There are two methods of holding your hook. One called a knife hold, which you're holding it like this, like a knife, and the other one called a pencil hold. Both of them are going to be just up to personal preference. The stitches are not going to look different. The tension's not going to be different once you practice enough. So just do whatever's comfortable. For me, I like to crochet like this because I feel like there's less movement involved. And for me, that's just kind of where I do it and how I do it. So let's start off with the basics. How do we get this yarn onto here? There's a whole bunch of ways to do this, but the first thing that we have to do is a slip knot. If you already know how to do a slip knot, go for it and start. But for those who don't know how, we're going to start. What you want to do is you want to make a little loop like this with your yarn. I have my tail here, and this yarn leads all the way back to my ball. I'm going to pick up the loop, and I'm going to put my pointer and my thumb through here. Okay, so I can make a little pinch with my pointer and my thumb. I am now going to twist the yarn over itself once. Okay, so I'm just rotating my right wrist. And then I'm going to grab the bottom strand. Now, if you're confused or you're doing this right-handed and you're like, oh, I don't know. If you go for the top strand, you see how the loop undoes itself? That's not what you want. You want to go for the bottom strand. So the loop is staying. You're basically crossing this piece of yarn over this piece. So, So we're going to cross, and then we're going to grab, and then pull. So one more time. Okay, so my tail's on the bottom. We're going to cross our right hand, and then we're going to grab and pull. And that's going to leave us with a slip knot. It's called a slip knot because when you place it on your hook, you can pull. I always forget which one to pull, but you can pull, and it's going to tighten it. Now, you don't want to tighten it to the point where it's like death gripped. And if you do by accident, you can always just pull the other end and it'll loosen it up. Okay? So we are going to pull. We're going to make it a little tight. And then we're going to forget that tail yarn. And we're going to move on to the actual stitch. One thing before we forget this tail yarn, make your tail yarn always about like 6 inches, depending on your project. You're going to have to sew this in and hide it later. Sometimes if you're doing a project like an infinity scarf that you're going to sew the ends together, you might want to leave this to be like 15 to 20 inches. So that way you can sew in and hide this tail at the same time. So how do we even get a flat project started? Now I say a flat project because if this is going to be how you start most of your panel work, like a scarf, a hat that you sew the ends together, this is not going to be how you do something like an amigurumi where you're working in a spiral. So this is going to be how you start most flat projects. So we're going to do something called a chain stitch. What you're going to do is you're going to yarn over like this. Okay, you're literally bringing your yarn over. And the way you know you're doing this right, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, is it's going from your hook hand to your yarn hand. It's going this way. The yarn's going this way, okay? It's going from my hook hand to my yarn hand. So now that it's yarned over, like that, you're going to pull through. Okay? When you yarn over and pull through, you should not be like struggling and trying to force it. What you should be doing is just pulling it. Okay? Sometimes you gotta like tug a little bit, but you shouldn't have to like rip your yarn to get through there. Okay? So you're going to yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through. Let's do 3 more times. Yarn over, pull through. Oop. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. So how many did we do so far? If you want to count, here's how you're going to do this. I always pull this loop up so I don't accidentally like pull it out, but also so I don't count this as a stitch. And you're going to count the V's. So you see how you have this V here? That's going to be your first stitch. Okay, you have this V right here. That's going to be your first stitch. Not this little nub, that's your slip knot. This is your first stitch. So that's 1, your next V, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I did 8 of these. Another way to count is just counting the lumps on one side. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the same number. Okay, so you can choose whatever is easiest for you, as long as you are fully counting. Now, if I messed up and I was like, oh, I did like 5 too many, all you have to do is pull on this end, and they're going to come right out. Okay, which is also why you want to pull up a larger loop or just leave your hook in there, because if I pull, it's not going to come out. Okay, so we're going to yarn over and pull through. There's another way to do this, which I prefer to do. Instead of yarning over, which is an important technique that we're going to need for later stitches, I actually like hook under. So I'm still doing the same motion. The yarn ends up going the same direction, but I'm pulling through, and I just move my hook more. The reason why I do this is because I'm not the best with my right hand. I'm basically inept with it. And so for me, it's easier to just move my left hand. Okay. Speaking of my right hand, though, you're going to want a good way to hold your yarn. So I hold it like this. I put my pinky under. I flip my hand. Put my pointer under, and I flip back. That's how I hold my yarn. Sometimes if I'm going really fast or I'm not paying attention, I'll use my pointer finger to wrap around for keeping the tension the same or how tight the yarn is held. But you want to find something that's comfortable for you. I've seen beginner crocheters and experienced crocheters hold their yarn like this, where it's just being held by their finger, and they wrap it around and they hold their project. So whatever's the most comfortable. The goal here is to prevent your right hand or your non-dominant hand from cramping up, because if you're going to be crocheting, it takes a long time. You're probably going to be crocheting for a while. So don't be afraid to take a break or put the yarn down, just to kind of like reset your mind and your hand, and then pick up the yarn. Having control over your right hand and this tension is going to take a while and going to take practice. So don't worry if you're like, I'm never going to do this. You will. It's just going to take a lot of time. Okay? So for those of you who need homework like me when I'm practicing something new, what I'm going to suggest doing is slip stitch 10, and during this time, I want you to find out what is the most comfortable way to hold your hook and what's the most comfortable way to yarn over. Is yarning over more comfortable? Is moving the hook more comfortable? Is another hold more comfortable? Okay, is another hold and moving the hook more comfortable? It's not for me, I can tell you that. Okay. And while you're exploring that, I want you to find a way to get these stitches to be as even as possible. Okay, you see how this stitch here is really large and then these up here are more even? You want to make sure that they're all possible. This is going to be very important for later when we start our next guide on how to single crochet. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video on how to make a slip stitch and how to do a starting chain. And I hope you keep crocheting and I hope you keep crafting. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Check out my socials down below, and I'll see you around. Happy crafting!